5 weeks into the season, and the Bears are 4-1, with all 4 wins coming against NFC opponents. That's big when you start thinking about playoff picture. Stop me if you've heard this one before. The defense, Super Bowl worthy. The offense, struggling. What's come to light over the last couple of weeks is this team isn't good enough to be one-dimensional. So when the running game is taken away, the passing game really struggles. What's at the root of the run game issues? We're going to get into that and more. I'm Dan Durkin, and this is the All 22 Review.
This chart shows the Bears' rushing yards per week through week 5. As you can see, there's been a big drop-off over the past 2 weeks. Part of that has to do with just the caliber of the run defenses that the Bears have faced. The Bucs and Colts rank first and third respectively in run defense. But another point to note is with Foles in at quarterback, you're not going to get the same level of productivity in the run game from the quarterback like the Bears were getting from Trubisky over the first couple weeks of the season. He chipped in 26 yards against the Lions, 16 against the Giants, and 45 against the Falcons. Foles is not going to be that same type of threat with his legs that Trubisky was. But as I mentioned in the open, the Bears aren't good enough to be a one-dimensional team. Even though Matt Nagy wants them to be a pass-first offense, they just aren't there yet. So they need the run game to get going. So what's at the root of it? What's been the problem over the last couple of weeks with the run game? When I evaluate performance, be it over a season, a game, or a play, there are 3 general explanations as to why things happen to me. Talent, technique, and coaching. Typically, it's a combination of all 3. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 1. But when I think about what a team can do about these once the season has started, talent to me is the hardest to fix. Your roster is typically locked in at this point in the year, so unless you have some youth in the pipeline that you've just been waiting to get into the game, your team is what it is for the most part. Technique is more of a per play view. Were your hands, your feet, and eyes where they needed to be on that particular rep that led to that particular outcome? Coaching. To me, this is an all-encompassing explanation. Were your players put in the best situation to succeed on that play? Was your game plan effective? Did you develop an identity and play to your strengths over the course of the season? When it comes to the Bears' run game struggles over the past 2 weeks, 4 points have really stood out to me. The interior offensive line isn't getting much movement or push. Cody Whitehair is giving a lot of ground. Jermaine Ifedi is having some issues with his pad level, and now you throw in James Daniels' pec injury, and that's a really devastating blow to the interior of the offensive line. Not sealing edges and getting backside cutoffs is ruining some of their zone plays. They're allowing players from the backside to chase runs down, which just should not happen. The Bears need to do a better job scheming to their current running back strengths. David Montgomery is having a great year, but as you see on a lot of his inside runs, the lanes just aren't there. But it's more about how they use Cordero Patterson. With Tariq Cohen going down, they started to use Patterson a little bit on these inside traps and these draw plays. That doesn't play to his strength. They need to make every run for Cordero Patterson an outside zone or a stretch play. Make it look like a kickoff return. Give him lanes to make choices and get north and south. Asking him to go forward right off the bat is not working out, yet they keep going back to that scheme. The last point is just Matt Nagy's overall commitment in what I would call an identity crisis a little bit here. The first moment he sees resistance or he struggle in the run game, he's going to abandon it. He looks for any reason to get into that passing offense, but that's the problem. This team isn't what he thinks they are in terms of where they're at as a passing offense, so he needs to recalibrate. They need the run game to create more explosive plays. It's shown over the first couple of weeks. Play action is working for them. Therefore, they need to maintain a level of commitment to the run game in order to unlock the passing game as well. Let's get into some tape here and look at some specific examples. Cody Whitehair's contract pays him to be one of the best centers in the league over the next 4 years. So you would expect him to be able to control. We talk about the talent aspect of this. Many of the nose and the shades that he faces on a snap-by-snap basis, but that wasn't the case against the Colts. He gave ground more often than he gained ground against Colts defensive tackle Grover Stewart. The orange line indicates the line of scrimmage. Pay attention to how this gets reset by the Colts defensive line. Look at the lineman's feet in relation to David Montgomery's when he gets the ball. He has nowhere to go. Stewart simply overpowered and was more physical than Whitehair throughout this game, and the results speak for themselves. The line of scrimmage was reestablished in the Bears' backfield. The Colts linebackers were left clean to make play after play against the run. There was a step up in competition when the Bears played the Bucks and Whitehair had to go up against Vita Vea. As you can see in this rep, very similar outcome, getting pushed back into the backfield, forcing Cordero Patterson to make a cut back inside on this zone play. Again, making the running backs make decisions this far back in the backfield isn't going to produce positive plays in the run game. Bears right guard Jermaine Ifedi is dealing with a technique issue, specifically his pad level. He needs to concentrate on lowering it both out of his stance and when he reaches his blocking assignment. Low man wins is a phrase you hear often in football, and what that effectively means is the person who is getting beneath the other has a leverage advantage. They can generate more ground force power because their legs and their core is still engaged. If you're standing straight up, you're pushing with your arms. That's Ifedi's problem right now. He's too high coming out of his stance, and he's too high when he's reaching the second level to actually make these blocks, and these clips will demonstrate that very clearly. The Bears run power O here with Ifedi leading to block the linebacker. JP Holtz has a responsibility to kick out the edge force player here, but as you'll see, Ifedi is too high coming out of his stance, and when he finally gets to his linebacker, he's clutching and grabbing. He gets away with a hold on this play. Ifedi has a double team on this gap scheme, but again, he's too high out of his stance, and he gives ground into the A gap, preventing James Daniel from getting to the second level. So again, stay lower out of his stance, stay lower when you actually reach your blocking assignment to get your legs involved in the block. Ifedi's not doing that consistently, and the film shows it. On the backside of their zone plays, the Bears are reliant on cutoffs, backside cutoff blocks to happen, meaning you're going to take down anybody who is chasing or pursuing the play from behind. Tight ends are missing these. Tackles are missing these. Guards are missing these, and it's contributing to some negative plays in the run game. Carolina is giving up 133 yards on the ground per game. Toss plays like this one against the Raiders, a couple of man plays here that you see from the Bucks, has shown that this defense is vulnerable to the run. So the Bears need to stay committed to it, not only for the sake of the run game, but the passing game as well. Foles is going to need that play action game to get the ball down the field, so it's key that the Bears stay committed. My name's Dan Durkin. This was the All 22 review. Thank you again for tuning in.